Chapter 937. Hua Chenhuan was not surprised to hear her say that. After all, Su Yiyan had sent Hua Xiaofeng to the hospital on her own. Her glorious history was still vivid in her mind. Although she was a little surprised that she could even beat a thug, it was not to the extent of being shocked. On the contrary, when Jing Qianyang heard Su Yiyan's words, he stared at Su Yiyan in astonishment and bewilderment, as if he was wondering how a certain someone with a small body that could be blown away by a gust of wind could possibly hit someone. Could it be that the robbers who came to catch them were so weak that they couldn't even beat a weak girl? As soon as this idea popped up, Jing Qianyang rejected it. If that was the case, how could these small fries get close to Su Yiyan when there were so many people by her side? Yan, you just said that you broke the nose of the person who wanted to catch you, and stepped on his foot? Yes. Just you alone? Yes. While Su Yiyan was embarrassed, she was also worried that Jing Qianyang would blame the bodyguards who tried their best to protect her. She hurriedly explained, there were too many people at that time. The number of people on the other side was basically 2 to 3 times that of us. It was already quite impressive that they could stop so many people and only let one person escape. Otherwise, even if I have some skills, I definitely wouldn't be able to escape unscathed like I am now. Jing Qianyang was also considered a wily old fox. He could tell a lot from Su Yiyan's words. He smiled and asked, "You've practiced with people before?" I couldn't tell. When I was young, I was always playful and almost got into trouble. My family was worried, so they hired a few masters to teach me some martial arts. It wasn't to beat people up, but to protect myself and strengthen my body. It's just that I've been neglected these years, and my martial arts have become rusty, so I didn't help much. Su Yiyan's words were not false. It had been a few years since she had learned these things from others. Although the incident back then had been more daunting than dangerous and hadn't really hurt her, it had almost scared her family out of their wits. After that, Su Yiyan basically had people following her wherever she went. The main reason she learned these things was so that she could have some ability to protect herself when she was alone. If she was not alone, the things she learned would naturally be useless. Especially after she married Hua Chenhuan, the number of people by her side skyrocketed. If something really happened, Hua Chenhuan would help her deal with it. Su Yiyan was happy to be a hands-off boss. She hid behind Hua Chenhuan like a canary. She looked more and more harmless. However, just because they looked harmless didn't mean that they were harmless. The man who had happily ran over to catch her was a realistic example. He had thought that he was an easy bone to chew, but in the end, it was his own teeth that broke. To be able to hold back those people that Chenhuan's sect gave you, these people's skills shouldn't be too bad. It's already not easy for you to gain an advantage over them. Especially according to Su Yiyan's words, the other party should have been seriously injured, but she was completely unharmed. There wasn't even a small wound. Even if this outcome was definitely caused by the other party underestimating Su Yiyan because she was a girl, it could be seen that Su Yiyan did have some skills. You just said that your family hired a few masters to teach you these things. What are the names of these masters? Don't think too much. I'm just a little curious. Moreover, there might be someone I know among these people. The premise was that the person was powerful enough and famous enough. Chapter 938. Su Yiyan knew Jing Qianyang's background, so she didn't think too much about it. After a moment of contemplation, she mentioned the name of the coach she thought was the best, but Jing Qianyang really did know him. Oh, it's him. Jing Qianyang let out a long sigh and suddenly understood. Hua Chenhuan frowned slightly. Uncle, you know him? We've met a few times. After the initial surprise, Jing Qianyang calmed down a lot and looked at Su Yiyan with curiosity and inquiry. After I retired, the higher-ups sent a very good person to take over my job. The person who taught Yan was that person's right-hand man at the time and was very capable in all aspects. I thought that when he got older and accumulated more credits, he would be able to replace that person and become the new leader of my department. Unfortunately, I heard that he was injured during a big mission and couldn't continue to stay there, so he could only retire. Jing Qianyang's tone of regret when he said this didn't seem to be fake. Obviously, he recognized Su Yiyan's ability as a coach. I didn't expect that your family would be able to get him to teach you. It seems that they put in a lot of effort. Even if that person had retired from the school, it was not something an ordinary person could do if they wanted him to be a coach for a little girl. Su Yiyan smiled. Uncle Xiang and my uncle were brothers who grew up together. Later on, our family moved to another city because of some family matters. Although we didn't keep in touch much, we didn't break off. After Uncle Xiang came back, he partnered with my uncle to start a small business. At that time, my family wanted me to learn something to defend myself, so they found a few old masters to teach me. When my uncle heard about this, he pulled him in as well. Jing Qianyang laughed. Your family found a few people at once? Uncle Xiang alone can take on a group of people. I think so too. Her family didn't know much about whether the people they found were professional or not. At that time, her family was very worried about her. Hiring a coach could be said to be an act of desperation. Most of the people they found were embroidered with embroidery. Of course, there were 2 or 3 people who had some real skills, but compared to Uncle Xiang, these people were inevitably at a disadvantage. How is he now? It's pretty good. Uncle Xiang's family background is not bad. Later on, he cooperated with my brother to start a small business. A few years ago, he got married and had a child. Now, his family is living quite happily. That's good. After entering that department, many people had already given up on life and death. It was just that as they got older, they inevitably wanted to settle down. And among these people, there was no lack of people like Jing Qianyang, who were worried about being hunted down by their enemies and implicating others, or worried that they might not be able to return at any time and waste others' time, so they remained single. It might not be a bad thing for a certain someone to retire early, get married, have children, and have a small family of his own. However, Jing Qianyang turned his head and looked at Hua Chenhuan sympathetically. His expression was complicated. Silly nephew, your wife's martial arts skills are so high. If the two of you have a conflict in the future and get into a fight, I'm afraid you won't be able to beat your wife. You'll only be beaten. Hua Chenhuan received her uncle's caring, little gaze and almost immediately saw through his little thoughts. The corner of her mouth twitched slightly. She thought to herself, not to mention that he goes along with Su Yiyan in family matters, it's impossible for him to quarrel with his wife, let alone fight. Even if that day really comes, can he really fight back against his wife? He'll definitely be beaten up one-sidedly. It has nothing to do with his wife's martial arts skills. Chapter 939. The leader, who was particularly tough in front of Su Yiyan not long ago, now looked at Li Yu for help like a frightened bird, and then gathered his courage to say, I'm sorry, boss, the people around Miss Su are too good at fighting. We tried our best but could only hold them back, and we didn't expect Miss Su to be so weak, and her skills are. Before he finished his words, Do Tiany's overly sharp eyes had already chopped over, and the leader was so scared that he shivered and couldn't say a word. I just want to know the result, not the reason. Cold sweat flowed down from the leader's head, and he said with shame and fear, I'm sorry, boss, we failed. The atmosphere in the room instantly became cold, and the leader's face was as pale as paper. He didn't dare to think about what terrible end he would face. However, to everyone's surprise, Do Tiany was silent for a long time after listening to their words, and only replied, I see, you can go out first. Just let it go. The leader couldn't believe his ears and almost thought that he had heard wrong. Li Yu's face darkened when she saw that he didn't know how to leave. She had never seen such a person who didn't know how to read the situation. She had asked him to leave, but he still didn't leave. Was he going to stay and burn himself and others? Li Yu silently drew a cross at this person in her heart and impatiently coughed lightly to remind him of something. The leader was like waking up from a dream. At the same time, he was worried that this was the calm before the storm, so he left with a heart full of worries. As soon as Li Yu saw him leave, she immediately took out the small video that she had prepared earlier and handed it to Do Tiany. "Boss, this is the video when they went to find Miss Su today." Do Tianyi took it but didn't watch it immediately. Instead, he asked, "Did they do something to her?" Li Yu was stunned and couldn't help but wipe a bitter tear for the bodyguards in her heart. The order was to bring her back, but they were not allowed to hurt her. The boss had said it, but the people under him were so bitter that they wanted to scratch the wall. To be precise, it was Miss Su who did it to them. Oh. Do Tianyi raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but feel a little curious. Su Yayan did it to them? Was she scratching, biting, and scratching? Do Tianyi couldn't be blamed for thinking that way. Even Jing Qianyang, who had lived with the Hua family for a while, didn't expect Su Yayan to be so capable, let alone Do Tianyi, who had only met Su Yayan a few times. The result was, of course, beyond Do Tianyi's expectations. Do Tianyi looked at the high-spirited woman in the video and couldn't help smiling. He sighed softly. I didn't expect her to be so good at martial arts. Do Tianyi's tone was full of surprise and admiration as he said this. Li Yu's eyes drifted over to the man who was beaten up badly and silently lit a candle for him in her heart. Boss's double standards are always so straightforward, and he doesn't differentiate between friend and foe. Just accept your fate. After watching the video, Do Tianyi's mood visibly improved. However, what he said sent a chill down Hu Yao's spine. Deal with the people outside. Li Yu's heart trembled. Boss. It was indeed the calm before the storm. Couldn't they escape? Deal with them cleanly. Do Tianyi paused as if he had thought of something. He added, I don't want to see them again. Chapter 940. Hua Chenhuan noticed Su Yiyan's strange look and asked with concern, What's wrong? You don't look well. It's nothing. Su Yiyan shook her head. I just remembered what he said to me when he came to me last time. Before Hua Chenhuan could speak, Jing Qianyang asked first, What did he say? He said that he just wanted to live. I didn't think too much at that time. Now I understand what he meant after listening to my uncle. That is to say, the rumor back then is true. His health, is it really so bad? I don't know if he can only live to 30 years old. But his health is really not good. I've seen him twice. His face is very pale, and he is short of breath. I guess he can't even stand for a long time. It seems that he is not well enough in the womb, and has been sick for a long time. He hasn't been well. Jing Qianyang sighed when he heard this. The rumor was spread when he was just born. Not long after, the news disappeared. His father must have asked someone to keep it a secret to protect him. But no matter how rich his father is, he still can't buy back his health. That's right. But from another point of view, if his family doesn't have money, I'm afraid he can't live until now. Jing Qianyang frowned slightly. He had to admit that Su Yiyan's words were reasonable. Hua Chenhuan's face was a little ugly. It was okay if he just wanted to cure Do Tianyi's illness. But it was obvious that he wanted Su Yiyan to save his life. Before coming, Hua Chenhuan had imagined countless ways to attack Do Tianyi. He could suppress the companies under the does, let people take away their big orders again and again, and design to break their capital chain. He could even arrange people to enter Do Tianyi's companies and instigate the company's executives to be dissatisfied with Do Tianyi. From the inside, he could disintegrate Do Tianyi's power bit by bit. But now, he could not help but wonder if Do Tianyi really cared about these things. Would a person who had been sentenced to death by a doctor and had less than 2 years to live really care about these worldly possessions? No one knew better than Hua Chenhuan how terrifying a person who was at the end of his rope and could not see any hope could be when he went mad. Some time ago, he only came to say a few words. Today, he dared to snatch her away in public. After a while, wouldn't he come to their house and snatch her away? Except for the outlaws who had killed her parents and Hua Qihan, this was the first time Hua Chenhuan had such a strong desire to kill someone. Su Yiyan sensed something and turned her head to look. When she saw her man's gloomy face, she guessed what he was thinking. This time, Su Yiyan did not comfort him. Instead, she reached out to hold Hua Chenhuan's hand. She knew what Hua Chenhuan was worried about. Dou Tianyi was crazy. No one could predict what such a crazy person would do. But it did not matter. She could not predict Dou Tianyi, but it did not mean that she could not predict another person. Thinking of the information that Xia Junxing had sent to her not long ago in the folder, Su Yiyan smiled slightly. She already had a preliminary idea in her heart. On the other side, the few people who failed to complete the task inevitably ushered in a disaster. Failed? Dou Tianyi's pale and thin knuckles tapped on the table. Although it did not make any sound, it made everyone in the room feel nervous. Chapter 941. The leader, who had been particularly tough in front of Su Yiyan not long ago, looked at Li Yu helplessly like a bird startled by the twang of a bow. Only then did he muster up the courage to say, "I'm sorry, boss. The people following Miss Su are too good at fighting. We tried our best but could only hold them back. Moreover, we didn't expect Miss Su to be so weak. Her skills are also..." Before he could finish speaking, Dou Tianyi's excessively sharp gaze had already slashed over. The man was so frightened that he trembled and couldn't say a word. "I only want to know the result. I don't want to hear the reason." Cold sweat flowed down the leader's head. He said in shame and fear, "I'm sorry, boss. We failed." The atmosphere in the room instantly turned cold. The leader's face was as white as paper. He didn't dare to imagine what kind of terrible end he was about to face. However, to everyone's surprise, Dou Tianyi was silent for a while after listening to their words. He only replied, "Got it. You can leave first. Just, let it go." The leader couldn't believe his ears. He almost thought that he had heard wrongly. Li Yu saw that he was standing there in a daze and didn't know how to leave. Her face also darkened. She had never seen such a tactless person. She had already asked him to leave, but he still didn't leave. Was he planning to stay and burn others? Li Yu silently crossed out this person in her heart. She coughed impatiently and reminded him. Only then did this person wake up from his dream. At the same time, he was worried that this was the calm before the storm. He left with a lot on his mind. As soon as Li Yu saw him leave, she immediately took out a small video that she had prepared and handed it to Dou Tianyi. "Boss, this is the video of them looking for Miss Su today." Dou Tianyi took it but didn't look at it immediately. Instead, he asked, "Did they make a move on her?" Li Yu was stunned. She couldn't help but wipe away bitter tears for the bodyguards in her heart. The order was to bring her back, but they were not allowed to hurt her. The boss had spoken, but the subordinates were so bitter that they wanted to scratch the wall. To be precise, it was Miss Su who attacked them. Oh. Dou Tianyi raised his eyebrows. He couldn't help but feel curious. Did Su Yiyan attack them? Could it be that he was scratching, and biting? Dou Tianyi could not be blamed for thinking this way. Even Jing Qianyang, who had lived in the family Hua for a while, did not expect Su Yiyan to be so capable, let alone Dou Tianyi, who had only met Su Yiyan a few times. The result was, of course, beyond Dou Tianyi's expectations. Dou Tianyi's lips unconsciously curled up as he looked at the high-spirited person in the video. He sighed, "I didn't expect her skills to be so good." When Dou Tianyi said this, his tone was filled with the surprise and admiration of discovering a treasure. Li Yu's gaze faintly drifted over to the beaten man. She silently lit a candle for him in her heart. The boss's double standards were always so straightforward, and he didn't distinguish between friend and foe. Just, accept your fate. After watching the video, Dou Tianyi's mood visibly improved. However, the words he said sent a chill down her spine. Deal with those people outside. Li Yu's heart trembled. Boss. Sure enough, it was the calm before the storm. Was there no escape? Deal with them cleanly. Dou Tianyi paused. He seemed to have thought of something and added, "I don't want to see them again." Chapter 942. He just didn't want to see them anymore? Li Yu's mind flashed. and he quickly understood what Do Tianyi meant. He was surprised by his soft-heartedness. Normally, his boss wouldn't be so easy to talk to, and he wouldn't explain so much. Was this change because of Miss Su? Li Yu had mixed feelings. He couldn't tell if Do Tianyi's change was good or bad. Just as he was at a loss, the phone suddenly rang, waking Li Yu from his daze. Do Tianyi glanced at him and said mercifully, "Go do your work." Li Yu hurriedly responded. He picked up the phone and walked out, but when he was about to step out of the door, he suddenly stopped and turned to look at Do Tianyi with a strange expression. "Boss." Do Tianyi raised his head to look at him, as if he had sensed something. "What happened?" It's about Miss Wen Jingping." Do Tianyi had almost forgotten about this person. Now that he heard Li Yu mention her, his face darkened and he said coldly, "What happened to her?" "It's like this, It turned out that half an hour ago, there was a series of explosive news on the internet, such as, Wen Jingping stepped in with a married man and became a mistress, a powerful veteran in the industry had an affair with an actress in the same production team, and his wife doting image collapsed." In order to increase the credibility of the news, many media outlets released many intimate photos of Wen Jingping and Ding Jueisi as evidence. It didn't take long for it to become a hot topic on the internet, and everyone knew about it. Both of them were artists under high-E art. Ding Jueisi had relied on his wife's connections and the image of a wife-doting husband to develop very well. It could be said that he had gained both fame and fortune. Now, he was considered one of the pillars of high-E art. The sudden exposure of such a scandal had a great impact on high-E art. After Ding Jueisi's manager saw the news on the internet, he immediately found someone to do public relations. However, when the public relations department saw that the people who caused the trouble were Ding Jueisi and Wen Jingping, they immediately found out. Considering the ambiguous attitude of the company's senior management towards Wen Jingping, the department head hesitated for a moment before taking the initiative to call Li Yu to inform her of the situation. When Li Yu heard about this, she felt that although her boss had a new lover, and his attitude towards Wen Jingping's old lover was not as good as before, it was better to be safe than sorry. Do Tianyi listened to Li Yu's words and looked at the latest trending topics. Sure enough, their scandal was at the top of the list. Do Tianyi narrowed his eyes, a little angry. He was not angry that the two of them had been exposed. Instead, he was angry that the two of them had dared to cause him such trouble in his own company and had asked his company to clean up the mess. "Are you being pressed down by someone?" "I did, but..." Li Yu looked troubled. But the people over there said that someone is manipulating this matter behind the scenes and they can't suppress it." "Someone is manipulating this matter behind the scenes?" Do Tianyi pondered for a moment and quickly felt that something was wrong. Li Yu stood beside Do Tianyi. She thought that Do Tianyi would definitely be angry when she said this. Unexpectedly, not only was he not angry, but he suddenly smiled and said, "When a kitten is provoked, it will also bite." Li Yu was confused. "Kitten? What kitten?" Assistantly, who was slow to react, took some time to realize that there was a hint of helplessness and doting in a certain someone's tone when he said this. She could not help but tremble. Chapter 943. Just as the two of them had expected, Su Yiyan was the one who released the news and refused to let anyone suppress it. Previously, when Su Yiyan was surfing the internet, she accidentally found out that Hu Xiaofeng had been cuckolded. She was so angry that she found a group of hooligans to humiliate Wen Jingping. Unexpectedly, Wen Jingping had hooked up with a married man who was a bootlicker. Just in case, Su Yiyan specially asked Xia Junxing to find someone to keep an eye on the two of them to see if they would still be together behind their wives' and children's backs like in the original work. In the end, Su Yiyan guessed correctly. After the "hero saves the beauty" incident, Ding Jueisi and Wen Jingping had contact and became familiar with each other not long after. It was unknown whether the power of the original work's plot was too strong or Wen Jingping's ability to seduce people was too high. Ding Jueisi was an old senior who had been in the entertainment industry for many years. Logically speaking, he should have more or less heard of Wen Jingping's love affairs. However, he didn't seem to mind these at all. Within a few days, he was in full swing with Wen Jingping. After that, in less than a week, he recommended her to be in a TV series that he was filming. Although Wen Jingping didn't get an important supporting role that could prove her acting skills like in the original work, she still got a small supporting role from Ding Juesi. This was a life-saving straw for Wen Jingping, who had been shelved since The Empress finished filming. Wen Jingping didn't reject Ding Juesi's olive branch. The next morning, she happily joined the crew and began to spend time with Ding Juesi day and night. Occasionally, they would read the script together. From the information submitted by Xia Junsheng, Ding Juesi was more restrained when he first invited Wen Jingping to join the crew. He basically interacted with Wen Jingping in public, and he always held the script in his hands when he spoke. The image of the diligent and studious newcomer and the responsible senior who explained the script to the newcomer was flawless, and no one could find any fault with it. However, there would always be times when people let their guard down. Soon, the two of them crossed the line between senior and junior and began to interact frequently in the dressing room, the fitting room, and even the hotel room of both parties. Xia Junsheng had sent a professional paparazzi to follow the two of them. It was almost to the point of being pervasive. Those who were sneaky and cautious could be photographed by him, not to mention these two people who could see that something was wrong. Su Yiyan did not intend to reveal this matter so early, but who asked Dou Tianyi to make her unhappy? If the male lead made her unhappy, she would mess with the female lead. In any case, they were now considered one entity, so there was nothing wrong with that. Wen Jingping didn't know that her calamity was caused by the King of Hell's attack, and she, a little demon, was the one who suffered. Seeing that her career finally had a chance to make a comeback, Wen Jingping was suddenly hit by reality. She was in a bad mood. She could only cry and run to the other protagonist to complain. "Brother Ding, how could this be? We clearly didn't do anything. How can these people slander us without any basis? Now that things have turned out like this, how can I face people in the future?" Wen Jingping cried like a pear blossom in the rain, and Ding Juesi's heart ached as expected. "Don't worry. These reporters and the big influencers are all like this. For some traffic, they can distort the truth and say anything. I've already contacted my agent and asked him to find a company to help with public relations. It will be fine soon. Just like you said, we didn't do anything. The innocent will be innocent. Nothing will happen." Chapter 944. Just like in the original novel, Ding Juesi was indeed having an affair with Wen Jingping. Especially since Wen Jingping was still single, unlike the original novel where she had been with Hu Xiaofeng for a long time. This gave Ding Juesi a good reason to pursue his true love. His attitude toward Wen Jingping was much warmer than in the original novel. However, Wen Jingping had only been using Ding Juesi from the beginning to the end. How could she have a substantive relationship with him? Every time Ding Juesi hinted at her, Wen Jingping would try her best to reject him, but she would not hurt Ding Juesi's self-esteem. She would keep him at arm's length. This made Ding Juesi mistakenly think that she was avoiding him and keeping a distance from him because she was worried about his identity as a married man. Wen Jingping's backup plan was very successful. Not only did she not push Ding Juesi away, but she also made him even more obsessed with Wen Jingping. Ding Juesi's heart melted when he saw Wen Jingping crying so miserably. He wished he could pull her into his arms and dote on her. A bold idea appeared in his mind. "Don't worry. I'm here. It'll be fine. Yes, I believe in Brother Ding." Wen Jingping looked at Ding Juesi with reddened eyes, which made Ding Juesi want to protect her. Just as he was about to say something to comfort her, an urgent ringtone suddenly rang. Ding Juesi glanced at the name displayed on the screen, and his expression changed slightly. He said apologetically, "Don't worry. The company and I will handle this. You just stay on set and don't go anywhere. I still have something to deal with. I'll leave for a while. I'll be back soon to accompany you." "Okay." Ding Juesi left in a hurry. Wen Jingping instantly stopped crying. She looked in the direction he left and sneered, "His wife?" An unfamiliar and rigid mechanical voice suddenly sounded. Yes. Calling him back at this time must be because of the online incident. Wen Jingping suddenly changed the topic and said coldly, "Have you found out who released those things?" Searching for the mastermind requires a certain amount of points. The host's current points are not enough to activate this function. Please complete the mission as soon as possible to obtain points. Wen Jingping's face darkened. She was so angry that she wanted to drag out the so-called system in her mind and give it a good beating. This system called the source of the world had suddenly found Wen Jingping when she was driven out of the Dou family by Liu. At that time, Wen Jingping had been frightened, but more than that, she was ecstatic. She had read countless system novels, so how could she not know that those who were chosen by the system were almost always the chosen ones? Sure enough, the heavens didn't let her transmigrate just to let her be ordinary. Wen Jingping quickly accepted the existence of the system and tried to use it to change her fate. However, things did not go as smoothly as Wen Jingping had imagined. She needed to complete missions and earn points to be able to exchange for goods in the system. But because of all the things that had happened before, Wen Jingping's reputation had been ruined to a certain extent, making it difficult for her to complete the missions given by the system. Wen Jingping had spent a lot of effort to get a few points. She had used all of them to increase her charm. In any case, she had grabbed hold of Ding Juesi, this life-saving straw, which gave her some buffer time. However, Wen Jingping was obviously not satisfied with this. The probability shows that the male supporting lead is very likely to divorce his wife after returning. Wen Jingping's face darkened. She sneered, "Divorce is divorce. What does it have to do with me?" Chapter 945. The mechanical voice in her mind was silent for a few seconds before speaking again. After the divorce, there is a high probability that he will come to the host to ask for a relationship. Wen Jingping's face completely darkened, and the coldness and resentment in her eyes became more and more obvious. If he wants to date me, then I'll date him. Does he really think that I'm a mistress who will come and go as he pleases? I've never said that I want to date him. Who can he blame if he misunderstood me? From the beginning, Wen Jingping didn't plan to have any relationship with this old man who was one round older than her. Ding Juesi was just a stepping stone to help her climb up. When she found someone else to rely on, this stepping stone would naturally lose its value and could be discarded. Wen Jingping had always been very clear about what she wanted. After entering the set, she had set her eyes on the male lead of this drama, Yin Jihong. Yin Jihong was the most favored young master of the Yin family, an acting family. His grandfather's generation was quite famous in the entertainment industry. His parents, as the second generation of stars, had lived under the spotlight since he was young. He also inherited his grandparents' acting talent and became a senior that many people looked up to. Yin Jihong was the most talented and the most favored child in the entire family. After entering the entertainment industry, everything had been smooth sailing, and no one dared to provoke him. Even Ding Juesi, who was a well-known actor in the entertainment industry, could only be a supporting actor in front of Yin Jihong. Wen Jingping set her eyes on Yin Jihong because he was good-looking and was about the same age as her. Secondly, she took a fancy to his family background. Although the Yin family wasn't as rich as the CEOs of large companies, the connections they had accumulated in the entertainment industry were not something that ordinary people could compare to. If she could get on this big boat, she wouldn't have to worry about not having a foothold in the entertainment industry in the future. However, the key was that after she entered the set, she had hinted at this young master countless times, but he refused to take her words. Although he didn't find trouble with her or show any disgust or rejection, he also didn't show any kindness to her. He didn't even say a word to her. Basically, he only treated her as an insignificant and invisible person. Thinking of this, Wen Jingping was full of anger. Is there a problem with the things you provided? Why are they fine when used on Ding Juesi, but not on Yin Jihong? Could it be that this thing was divided into different people? You're not trying to fool me, are you? Host, be careful with your words. According to the data, Ding Juesi's family background is far inferior to Yin Jihong's. He is considered a beginner cannon fodder. The difficulty of capturing him is low, and he is greatly affected by the female lead's halo. Yin Jihong, on the other hand, belongs to the reserve of the main supporting male role. The difficulty of defeating him is high and the influence of the female lead's aura is low. The host needs to accumulate more points to exchange for more items to facilitate defeating him. What the system didn't say was that the gray wing didn't bite a flawless egg. Ding Juesi was this fly. When Jingping was young and beautiful, she took the initiative to come to him. Plus, with the support of the items exchanged by the system, it was naturally not difficult to capture him. However, Yin Jihong was different. He was born into a scholarly family. Although he was extremely spoiled at home, his upbringing was very good. He liked capable, independent, and strong girls. He was the complete opposite of Wen Jingping, who was a weak white lotus. If Wen Jingping wanted to capture him, she would have to exchange for high-level items in the system. Only then would it be possible to blind his eyes and make him have a good impression of Wen Jingping, who had completely different preferences from him. In the end, Wen Jingping was not his cup of tea. If she wanted to capture this person, the only way was to rely on the system. Chapter 946. Unfortunately, she had no idea at all. Even the system wanted to pry open her head to see what was inside. In addition, I would like to remind the host that according to the host's previous choice, the world's male lead has been changed to Do Tianyi. Even if the host tries to woo Yin Jihong, he can only be regarded as a backup male supporting character. The main target is still Do Tianyi. I hope the host understands. It would have been better if the system did not mention this. Once it did, Wen Jingping almost exploded on the spot again. Do Tianyi? Didn't I say it before? I didn't know about this at all. What changing the world's male lead? What male lead or supporting male lead? They didn't even remind me and decided on my own. How could they say that it was my choice? I never had a choice. Besides, do you think Do Tianyi has any feelings for me? It'd be better for you guys to choose an old man like Ding Ju-si as the male lead than him. When the system first appeared, it had already mentioned to Wen Jingping about the world's male lead. Wen Jingping found out that the original male lead of this world was Hu Xiaofeng. However, after she chose to leave Hu Xiaofeng and seek protection from Do Tianyi, the male lead was inexplicably replaced by Do Tianyi. She felt terrible. If she had known that her momentary lapse in judgment would cause her to fall into such an embarrassing situation, Wen Jingping would never have left Hu Xiaofeng in such a resolute manner and jumped from one fire pit to another. The most annoying thing was that this male lead role could only be changed once. She had already used it up, so she was destined to be tied to Do Tianyi for the rest of her life. Otherwise, she would not be able to truly seize the fate of the world. Wen Jingping shuddered as she recalled that man's callousness and how she had been humiliated by Li Yu near the Dou residence. She said hysterically, "No, you have to help me change it. Change it to Yin Jihong. Yes, change it to him. You said it yourself, I'm the female lead of this world, and I have the world's fate. My words are imperial edicts, and you have to change them now. This is how the world's consciousness is, and the system cannot change it. Host, please do not make things difficult for the system." The tone of the system's reply already had some impatience. It also didn't expect that it had only made a little mistake and arrived a little later than expected. This stupid world's female lead actually broke off with the male lead to the point that they wouldn't rest until one of them was dead. She even activated the world's protection mechanism to automatically change the male lead. In its opinion, the current situation was completely caused by Wen Jingping herself. Difficult? You can't even do such a small thing, and you say I'm making things difficult for you? Wen Jingping was going crazy. You can't do this, and you can't do that. What's the use of you? When you first appeared, you said that you could help me solve all my problems, make everyone like me, and make everyone pay the price for going against me? And the result? You can't do anything. I've never seen a system as useless as you. As soon as Wen Jingping's words came out, the system was very angry. As the most advanced system, the things it could do were definitely beyond the imagination of this paper man world. It was helpless that it was bound to a fake and brainless host. She didn't do a good task, but went around looking for trouble. It had to face all kinds of Azura battlefields as soon as it was in place. A certain someone didn't have enough points to exchange for items in the system store. She didn't blame it for being useless, but she actually dared to push the blame to it. Even though it was just an emotionless AI, the system had a rare hint of human anger in it. Chapter 947. The host is also the least charming host that the system has ever encountered. Even though the other hosts needed to borrow the power of the system to climb higher and gain the favor of more people, they would still have one or two shining points. They could also attract some people by themselves. Unlike Wen Jingping, who could be said to be a good person but was not a good person at the same time. She could be said to be a bad person but did not have the guts to do so. She was not evil enough. She had ambition but did not have the brains to match her ambition. If it were not for the fact that the female lead of the world could not be changed and that it had to be tied to the female lead of the world to survive, the system would have quit long ago. One person and one system despised each other. Instead of saying that they were working together, it was more like they had no choice but to bind each other. Facts proved that although Wen Jingping's system was not human, it understood people's hearts very well. After Ding Juesi received a call from his wife and returned home, he had a big argument with her. In a fit of anger, he proposed a divorce. Unexpectedly, his wife, who was originally hysterical and wanted to tear Ding Juesi and his mistress apart, calmed down when she heard that he wanted a divorce. Looking at her husband who had been with her for more than 10 years, she felt that it was the first time she saw his true colors. She sneered and said, "You want a divorce? Okay, then we'll get a divorce. You'll leave with nothing. The 2 children will be mine." Ding Juesi did not expect his wife to agree so readily. However, he was the one who proposed the divorce first. Even if his wife agreed, he could not back down even if he was unwilling. He could not put down his dignity as a man and go back on his word at this time. But soon, he was angered by the meaning of his wife's words. Leave with nothing? Why should I leave with nothing? We've been married for so many years. I've been working hard outside to earn money to support the family. The money I brought back was basically handed over to you. Do you think there are any other men who can do that? What's there to be dissatisfied with? Now that you want a divorce, you want me to leave with nothing? I think you're simply trying to force me to death. Why? Because you betrayed me, betrayed our family, and had an ambiguous relationship with an outside woman. How many times have I explained it to you? I have nothing to do with her. It's just that we're juniors in the same production team. If she has anything she doesn't understand, she can ask me. I can't take advantage of my seniority and ignore her, right? You have nothing to do with the juniors in the same production team? Do you really think that I don't know anything about what happened outside and let you spout nonsense? With every sentence, Mrs. Ding took a step forward. She said aggressively but clearly, "It doesn't matter. Would you be so kind as to save the beauty in the middle of the night? You personally brought her to the hospital for a checkup and carefully booked a hotel for her to stay." Ding Juesi's expression changed slightly as he looked at his wife in surprise. When he was photographed that day, the media only reported that he was the hero who saved the damsel in distress. They did not mention anything about the follow-up arrangements. How did his wife know? Ding Juesi suddenly had an ominous premonition in his heart. However, it was already too late when he realized that something was wrong. Seeing that his wife was getting more and more excited, Ding Juesi subconsciously retorted, "I was just acting bravely for a just cause. I pitied her." Chapter 948. After being married for so many years, you've been working hard outside to earn money to support the family? You make it sound like I don't have any money on hand and need you to support me. Ding Juesi, have you forgotten who you relied on to get to where you are today? If it weren't for my dad and my brother who used their own connections to help you get a bunch of high-end resources for my sake, do you really think that you can get to where you are now with your talent and ability? Do you really think that you can get so many jobs that you feel hard work with just your talent? You would have been trampled under the feet of the artistes in the same period and starved to death. Although Mrs. Ding became a housewife after marrying Ding Juesi, she stayed at home to take care of her husband and children. However, she was a rich young lady who had been pampered by her family since she was young. Not to mention the company shares that her parents had transferred to her when she got married. The annual dividends alone were enough to match the contract money that Ding Juesi had worked hard to earn for more than half a year. Even if she occasionally bought a few stocks in her free time, the money she earned was more than what Ding Juesi earned from taking on a job. She didn't need to spend any of Ding Juesi's money at all. On the other hand, after marrying her, Ding Juesi used his wife's family's connections to pull in a lot of investments and high-end endorsements for himself. If one really counted, it was basically Ding Juesi's gain. And now, this beneficiary was actually making a false accusation and crying about his difficulties? As for taking back the money you earned and handing it over to me for safekeeping, did I beg you to do it? It was clearly you who said sweet words back then that you took so much advantage of my family and married such a treasure like me. You felt bad and begged me to help you take care of it. Now, you actually have the face to brag about your contributions to this family and make it seem like I'm bullying you? Do you really think that you're a peerless good man just because you've established a peerless good man outside? You're so touched that you don't even know if you're worthy. You. It was the first time Ding Juesi had heard such sharp words from his usually demure and dignified wife. His face was livid. Do you have to say such harsh words? If you think those words are harsh, then don't do such shameful things and talk so much disgusting nonsense. Why? Wasn't what I said just now the truth? Ding Juesi choked because what his wife said was indeed the truth, and sometimes the truth was so hurtful. Mrs. Ding saw the resentment and even hatred in Ding Juesi's eyes and suddenly felt like laughing. When she was in love, she always felt that this person was good in every way. He was gentle and elegant, generous in his speech, kind to others, and knew how to dote on others. Now that she knew that he was not what he appeared to be, she realized that his so-called gentleness was nothing more than vanity and his so-called elegance was nothing more than cowardice. The so-called doting could be doting on you, but it could also be doting on others. It was a very universal love. Since you feel that it's hard for you to do so much outside work, fine. From today onwards, I'll inform my subordinates that they don't need to trouble themselves to help you pull in resources. In any case, I'm going to divorce you. From now on, we'll part ways and never see each other again. Even if I have nothing to do with you, my family is the same. My father and brother won't give you any more help. You're on your own now. Madame Ding's words were like knives that stabbed into Ding Juesi's heart. Ding Juesi realized that this matter had started to exceed his expectations. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he realized that his wife had already started to pack her luggage. Ding Juesi was shocked. What are you doing? Chapter 949. If I move away and live under the same roof as you, I'll have goosebumps all over my body. I'll take the 2 children away. This house was written in our names before. After that, I'll get someone to sell it. We'll split it in half. It can be considered as fulfilling the last bit of our relationship as husband and wife. Mrs. Ding had thought about it from the beginning. When they got married, they would split the money in half. At that time, Ding Juesi's career was not as prosperous as it was now, and he had limited money on hand. He could not afford this entire house at all. It was not that Mrs. Ding had not thought of buying this house in full. She was just worried that this would hurt Ding Juesi's self-esteem, so she settled for the next best thing. The 2 of them would split the money in half and buy each other's wedding house. Because of the disparity in their family backgrounds, Mrs. Ding had been very careful and worked hard to manage their marriage all these years. In the end, her years of affection were only exchanged for such a cold return. Mrs. Ding's heart was extremely cold. When the sweetness of the past had all turned into knives that cut flesh, the best way was to cut off the threads of love and stop the loss in time. However, she did not give in at this time because she wanted to help this scumbag in front of her and his women outside. Apart from leaving the house with nothing, Madame Ding felt indescribably disgusted at the thought that Ding Juesi might bring those women into this house after she left with her child. It was better to sell the house directly. From the family to the assets, they would be divided cleanly. They would give it to anyone but these dogs. Of course, the premise is that you cooperate. I'll get someone to send you the divorce agreement after that. Think about what I said just now. After you think about it, sign it. If you don't sign it, we'll meet in court. My lawyer will be waiting for you at any time. Mrs. Ding was nimble and did not lack money. She did not bring any worthless things with her and was prepared to get someone to clean them up after that. In just a few minutes, Mrs. Ding carried a small bag and was about to leave with the 2 children and the nanny. Ding Juesi stood at the side, as if he had not recovered from his wife's neat and tidy handling. It was not until he saw the 2 children that he seemed to have finally found his voice. He asked hoarsely, "Do you really have to be so ruthless?" Mrs. Ding was so angry that she laughed. "You're the one who forced me to be ruthless. Don't you think about the children's feelings? If you move out now, what will people say about me? I am their father. If others laugh at me, they will naturally laugh at them. Do you have the heart to let them lose their father at such a young age and be looked down upon by the people around them at such a young age?" When couples quarreled, divorced, and wanted to reconcile, they loved to bring up their children. Generally speaking, children were a woman's weakness. As long as she used this trump card, she would be in an invincible position. However, Ding Juesi's plan was destined to fail. Hearing his words, Mrs. Ding did not change her mind. Instead, she became even more determined. "So you also know that others will laugh at your child when they laugh at you. Why didn't you think about me and our child when you did those dirty things? Now you want to kidnap me with a child? Do you think you're worthy? The marriage must be divorced. I don't want my child to live with a hypocritical, filthy, and disloyal man. You know what you did is wrong, but you don't have to be punished. When you grow up, you will learn from you and harm other little girls." Chapter 950. Ding Juesi was completely humiliated by his wife. While he was angry, he still tried to defend himself. "You're going overboard. How many times have I told you that there's really nothing between her and I? September 2nd the year before last, October 9th last year, and half a year ago at XX Hotel." Ding Juesi's expression became uglier and uglier when he heard his wife spew out a bunch of seemingly irrelevant words like a machine gun. He looked at his wife with an uneasy and fearful gaze. Mrs. Ding saw the change in his expression, and the ridicule on her face became even more intense. "You're not unfamiliar with what I'm saying, right? This is only in the past few years. I don't even dare to think about how many people you've looked for before. Fortunately, I have a physical examination every month. Otherwise, I'm worried that I'll accidentally contract some disgusting disease." Ding Juesi's face turned green and white. He was speechless for a long time. Mrs. Ding asked the nanny to take the children away first. Then, she sneered. "Do you really think that I don't know anything and am not prepared to tell you this? If you obediently sign the divorce agreement and leave the marriage with nothing, we'll part on good terms. For the past 10 years, I'll treat it as if I was bitten by a dog and used it to give birth to 2 children. If you want to make a scene, I happen to be angry too. Let's shed all pretense of cordiality and see who will lose their reputation." Mrs. Ding straightforwardly threw out a bunch of warnings and turned to leave. She completely ignored how ugly Ding Juesi's expression was behind her. Ding Juesi's image of a loving wife and a good man that he had maintained for so many years collapsed overnight. Many people saw him as a joke. Those reporters were like wild dogs that smelled meat. They stuck to Ding Juesi at any moment, wishing that they could bite off a piece of meat from him. Mrs. Ding had just brought the 2 children back to her parents' house when this matter was exposed. It indirectly confirmed the fact that Ding Juesi had an affair. Xia Junsheng had specially hired people to keep an eye on Ding Juesi and Wen Jingping. Therefore, they had received the news before anyone else and knew more details than anyone else. Su Yiyen was surprised and impressed when he found out that Mrs. Ding had proposed a divorce with Ding Juesi very neatly. She even took out the evidence of Ding Juesi's infidelity and asked him to leave the marriage with nothing. Otherwise, his reputation would be ruined. She felt that this Madame Ding was truly a heroine. She should treat this kind of scumbag as ruthlessly as the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves and not give them any chance. After Su Yiyen remembered the description of Ding Juesi in the original novel, he vaguely felt that this person was not as upright as he appeared to be. While he asked Xia Junxing to send someone to keep an eye on the two of them, he also asked someone to investigate Ding Juesi. In the end, he didn't know if he didn't investigate, but he was shocked when he did. It was not a coincidence that Ding Juesi had a mental affair with Wen Jingping. Before this, he had already had a physical affair several times. In order to prevent Mrs. Ding from being deceived by this sanctimonious scum, Su Yiyen asked someone to mail these things to Mrs. Ding on the same day. After Mrs. Ding received it, she didn't seem to have any reaction. Her days went on as usual, and she took care of the children as usual. Su Yiyen thought that she had already known about Ding Juesi's affairs outside, but she had endured it for the sake of the children and the family. Who would have thought that she didn't want to endure it? Instead, she had already planned a way out after knowing that she had trusted the wrong person. She had endured it so that she could better collect evidence and wait for the opportunity to give the scumbag a fatal blow. She wanted to kick him out of her world and occupy the moral high ground at the same time. There are indeed not many good men in the Phoenix these days. Chapter 951. Ning Qiruei finally came back from the variety show and rushed to Su Yiyen's office immediately. He wanted to talk to Su Yiyen about how she had invited his elder brother to a barbecue party and caused him to starve in the wilderness and suffer from his elder brother's barbecue meal. That was an inhumane tragedy. As a result, he had to deal with such a big melon as soon as he arrived. He was so stunned that he forgot his original purpose for coming here. When he heard Su Yiyen's words, he slowly reacted and muttered in a low voice, "You don't have to blame everyone." Su Yiyen was stunned. She looked up at Ning Qiruei and said with a faint smile, "Do you know what it means to be a man with a phoenix? Just take it for granted." Ning Qiruei frowned and was a little unconvinced. "I know. Isn't it just a poor guy who marries a wife who is better than him in all aspects? Well, it's not really a marriage. It seems that a large number of people marry into the family. You're right to understand it that way." Su Yiyen smiled at him. "But the man with a phoenix I'm talking about is obviously relying on his wife to get rich, but he still has high aspirations. He thinks that he is capable and talented, and even if he doesn't rely on his wife, he can still make a career out of it. While enjoying the benefits brought to him by his wife's family, he also has high aspirations and hates the negative impact it brings. He feels that the various conveniences provided by his wife's family are holding him back, causing him to suffer unnecessary criticism and humiliation." This. Ning Qiruei was a little confused by Su Yiyen's explanation. After a long time, he muttered, "Is there something wrong with their brains?" Su Yiyen almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. "In our eyes, there is something wrong with their brains, but in their own eyes, it's reasonable. They take advantage of their wife's family to get promoted step by step. They feel wronged and think that they are such noble people. How can you use money and resources to humiliate me? If you do this, what will people outside think of me?" Su Yiyen looked at Ning Qiruei's eyes, which had become surprised and panicked at some point, and chuckled. "Some people even think that if the tiger doesn't show its power, you really think I'm Hello Kitty. Just you wait until I have a firm foothold in your family. Sooner or later, I will swallow up your family's property. At that time, let's see who dares to look down on me." Ning Qiruei was shocked. What kind of terrible and twisted brain circuit was this? Wasn't marrying such a person like her tantamount to inviting a wolf into the house? To put it bluntly, you just don't have the ability, and you're still arrogant. He clearly knew that relying on women was embarrassing, but he couldn't resist the temptation of wealth and status. He had enjoyed the joy of being in a high position by relying on a woman. If he wanted to erase his shameful past by relying on a woman, it would be easy for him to resent those who had helped him in the past. Because in their eyes, the existence of these people is a reminder of his disgraceful past. Cutting the flesh of his loved ones, stabbing the knives of the people around him, and then going outside to listen to those who had previously mocked him flatter him in turn to satisfy his selfish and greedy vanity. On the other hand, the woman and her family had contributed money and effort, but they were still resented, hated, and schemed against. They were clearly married, but it was even scarier than becoming enemies. Do you think this kind of person is a good person? No, no, no. Ning Chirue hurriedly put his hands into the shape of a propeller. I was wrong, I was wrong. This kind of person is not a good person. Su Yiyen was amused by him. You're right. I just said that there are not many good people. It's not like you're trying to overthrow the whole boat with one pole. Chapter 952. I just think that these people should be more humble. After marrying someone else's daughter, they should take good care of her, not care about the rumors outside, and live a good life as husband and wife. Or, they should not rely on the woman's family's help from the beginning. If they feel that they have the ability to climb to a high position and have this ambition, they should rely on their own ability to make a career and work hard to be worthy of the woman. Even if it's hard at first, if you really have the ability, gold will shine sooner or later. When that day comes, who won't sincerely praise you for your ability and praise you for being a golden couple? Su Yiyen did not look down on the poor. On the contrary, she respected and admired those who stuck to the bottom line, had ambition, and relied on their own ability to get out of poverty and become rich. Because such people had no foundation and no background, they had to rely on themselves for everything. The effort and hardship they had to put in was 100 times more than those of the rich. For example, Luo Weibing. He lost his parents when he was young and had a sickly sister. In the face of the heavy pressure of reality and the temptation of sacrificing the bottom line to take a shortcut, he was still able to stick to himself. He relied on his own talent and extraordinary efforts to get to where he was today step by step. After Su Yiyen finished speaking, she glanced at Ning Chirue. The young master of a wealthy family, who had always been well protected, still had a confused expression on his face. She could not help but tease him. What? Do you think I'm wrong? No, 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 you're right. You're right. Ning Chirue seemed to wake up from a dream. He touched his nose and said a little guiltily, I just didn't expect Senior Ding to be such a person in private. Senior Ding? Su Yiyen raised her eyebrows and looked surprised. Do you know him? Have you heard of him or met him? Met him. Ning Chirue looked up at Su Yiyen as he spoke, for fear that she would regard him and Ding Juesi as jackals of the same tribe. I met him when I was a guest on a variety show. At that time, Senior Ding was also there. He was the oldest in the group, and he took care of us juniors. Oh. Su Yiyen deliberately dragged out her voice, which made Ning Chirue instinctively feel goosebumps on his back. Then have you observed how he treats his agent and assistant? Ning Chirue pondered for a moment, as if he really had not noticed. When Su Yiyen saw his expression, he already had an answer. He threw the information that Xia Junxing had just sent to Ning Chirue. Take a look. This is... Ning Chirue picked up the information and flipped through it. He found that it was all evidence of Ding Juesi beating and scolding his assistant and manager, secretly suppressing newcomers, deliberately leading public opinion to expose the artists in the same batch as him, and publicly acting like a big shot in order to tear down resources. Everything was listed very clearly, making it impossible for anyone to help him clear his name. Oh my God. Ning Chirue's jaw dropped. I really couldn't tell that he was such a person in private. You may know a person for a long time without understanding their true nature. Some people's offstage acting skills are always better than on stage. In this world, there was a kind of person who was very good at putting on a facade. In front of outsiders, they were particularly warm, decent, and helpful, but in front of their acquaintances, they would easily beat, scold, and humiliate them if they were unhappy. It's commonly known as bossy in the nest. Ning Chirui was speechless. I think you are quite unreasonable. President Hua must have been bullied by you at home, right? Pfft. When Xia Junxing came in with another set of information, he heard these words and could not help but laugh out loud. Chapter 953. Su Yiyan coughed lightly and did not continue to scare the innocent young master. She said seriously, "What's the matter?" "This is the newly sent information." Xia Junxing handed the warm information that he had just received to Su Yiyan. Su Yiyan took it and flipped through it slightly. She sneered and said, "This guy really has a lot of dirt on him. You can find a pile of it just by looking around." Su Yiyan said as she threw the information on the table. "Is Hai Yi still trying to suppress it?" "They tried at first, but there's no movement now." Su Yiyan raised her eyebrows slightly. No movement? Hai Yi was planning to give up on these two people. Then, what should we do next? Mrs. Ding seems to be preparing to divorce Ding Juesi. If we push too hard at this time, it will be easy for her to do something desperate. Let's give Mrs. Ding some face. We'll temporarily withdraw from this and let the media lead the topic to Wen Jingping. Su Yiyan muttered to herself. If I remember correctly, the drama in which Wen Jingping is the female lead is going to be broadcast soon. On the eve of the broadcast, the female lead sacrificed herself to attract attention for her debut drama. Even if we're rivals with Hai Yi, we have to admit that she's dedicated to her work. How can we not help her? Wen Jingping was the female lead of the drama in which she was the female lead. Since the audition, she had been trying to gain popularity for another drama in Su Yiyan's company. From the director, casting, to the end of filming, to the review, and even the recent official announcement of the broadcast, she was sticking to her like a dragon. She could not get rid of her. After knowing this, Su Yiyan did not really understand Do Tianyi's brain circuit. She was using all kinds of methods to seek cooperation, but at the same time, she was trying to provoke her own anger. Did she really think that she was a masochist? However, since someone was in a hurry to court death, Su Yiyan had no reason not to help her. On the eve of the broadcast of the main female lead, the female lead was a mistress of a married man. She was a proper White Lotus and green tea bitch. Not to mention the drama itself, just this point alone was enough to make their drama's reputation plummet. After Su Yiyan finished talking about business with Xia Junxing, she turned around and found that Ning Chirui was still there. "Why are you looking for me?" Ning Chirui glanced at Su Yiyan and hesitated. Su Yiyan saw that he was speechless for a long time and was full of suspicion. However, she said, "Speaking of which, I heard from your brother that you recently received a Chinese medicine appointment and needed to go out for a period of time. You're back?" When Ning Chirui heard Su Yiyan mention his brother, the expression on his face became even more sorrowful. He said pitifully, "Yes, boss, you don't know how crazy that variety show is. Let's go to the place where you lied to us about how good it is. The environment is beautiful, the people are simple, and the people are easy to get along with." In the end, I only found out that the environment was indeed quite beautiful. It's just that we lived in thatched huts and wooden houses. They were old and crumbling. On the day that it rained, the rain would leak. It was worse than a cave. There was nothing to eat. Nutrient solutions could only be bought from a place more than 10 kilometers away, and the taste was not good. Other than that, we could only go out and find fruits to eat. The fruits there were sour and astringent, and there was no way to eat them. I almost learned to dig up grass roots to eat. Su Yiyan. Hearing this, it was indeed quite miserable. Didn't they give you any tasks or reward you with some food? If not, there must be someone there, right? Can't you use your face to ask someone to take you in? You also said that the people there are simple and easy to get along with. How could they refuse you? Are they stupid? Chapter 954. Ning Chirui was choked by Su Yiyan's words. He was too embarrassed to tell her that he could not let go of the burden of being an idol, so he took the initiative to go to other people's houses to eat and drink. Ahem. The program team did prepare some tasks, but those tasks were also very, very crazy. Walking on a tightrope in the air without any safety measures, going up to the roof without breaking a hole. In short, they were tiring and dangerous tasks that were not easy to complete. We were going to participate in a variety show, not a circus. In the end, a few of us tried it, but we all gave up because it was too dangerous. We ate fruit and drank inferior nutrient solution for 3 days and 2 nights. When Ningchirue said this, his whole person was like a flower bud that had been hit by a storm. He was miserable and haggard, and could wither at any time. Su Yiyen heard this and frowned. She said to Xia Junsheng, "Contact the director of the program team and tell them that Ningchirue will not go next time if he does not take safety measures. It's fine if nothing happened this time, but if there is a next time, the legal department of East City will definitely hold them accountable." Generally speaking, this kind of rural experiential variety show was not the same as the kind of adventure variety show, and they would not deliberately sign any safety guarantee agreement. However, in Su Yiyen's view, the few tasks that Ningchirue had just mentioned were no less dangerous than the adventure variety show. Su Yiyen could understand that the program team would make some strange tasks for the artists to complete for the sake of gimmick, but this did not mean that she could accept the program team's blatant joke about the safety of the artists. After explaining to Xia Junsheng, Su Yiyen turned to look at Ningchirue and comforted him, "You did the right thing. No matter what the situation is, the safety of your life should be the first priority. If you encounter this kind of thing in the future, remember to tell your agent and let your agent report it to the company. There will naturally be people in the company who will support you. If not, there is still your brother, right?" When Ningchirue heard her say this, his nose twitched and he was a little moved. In this world, apart from his family, Su Yiyen was the first person who said that she would support him. Although Ningchirue was pampered at home, he was not a spoiled brat. Usually, when he encountered something at work, he would handle it on his own. He would only report the good news and not the bad news. This time, the reason why he deliberately brought up this matter in front of Su Yiyen was that he wanted to act pitiful in front of her and pave the way for what he wanted to say later. Who would have thought, while Ningchirue was feeling touched, he heard Su Yiyen say with disdain, "You're a rich second-generation heir, but you know how to swallow your pride at this time. Where's the arrogance you had when you dared to give me the cold shoulder the moment we met? Could it be that after falling ill, his personality had softened? Don't forget, I spent a lot of effort to save your life. If something were to happen to you now, who would work for me for the next 9 years? Didn't I suffer a huge loss?" Ningchirue was speechless. Well, he had to swallow back the feeling of being touched just now. Su Yiyen raised his head and frowned. "Why are you still here? Is there anything else?" Was he asking her to leave just like that? The corner of Ningchirue's mouth twitched slightly, and he said shamelessly, "Ahem, that, My girlfriend's appetite hasn't been very good recently. She wants to eat something delicious that she hasn't eaten before. I saw that the barbecue and beggar's chicken you made for my brother and the others before were pretty good." Su Yiyen was speechless. After all this time and beating around the bush, it turned out that he was thinking about her family's food. Xia Tolman's girlfriend Ning Shi, who was unexpectedly cued, was speechless. "I'm not a real person, but you're a real dog." Chapter 955. Su Yiyen saw through Ningchirue's thoughts at a glance and remembered Lan Jiaye, who came with Yen Xiaoran that day. Lan Jiaye's girlfriend and Ningchirue's girlfriend were best friends. Lan Jiaye must have been preoccupied that day. He did not expect to bring his family like Ling Xiaoqi did with Ning Xiyuan, so he came with his sister-in-law. After he went back, it was said that he ran to his girlfriend to share his amazing discovery and the many delicacies he had eaten at the family Hua that day. Thoughts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the result was obvious. A man who ate alone did not deserve to have a girlfriend. Although the two of them didn't break up, domestic violence was inevitable. One ate alone and went back to show off to his girlfriend, and the other used his girlfriend as an excuse for eating. Men. Although she complained, in order to make up for Ning Chirue's misery of being forced to eat sour fruits on a variety show and not let him follow in Lan Jiaye's footsteps, Su Yiyan asked someone to send Ning Chirue some food. However, since your girlfriend wants to eat, bring it back for your girlfriend. Su Yiyan said and gave Ning Chirue a meaningful and evil smile. Miss Xia has worked with our company before. Brother Junxing should have her contact information. The smile on Ning Chirue's face froze instantly. Having contact information meant that she could contact him at any time, which meant that the lie could be exposed at any time. So, after working so hard for so long, in the end, it was all for someone else? Someone who had given him some sunshine withered in an instant. But soon he pulled himself together. His wife loved him so much, so she would definitely not eat alone. They could share the food when he brought it back. He was still lucky. Fortunately, Su Yiyan did not know his inner thoughts, or she would have ridiculed him. Men, sometimes they are astute, but sometimes they are terrifyingly naive, conceited. In front of delicious food, what was a boyfriend? Could it be eaten? Su Yiyan asked Xia Junxing to stop for the time being and no longer let people influence the public opinion on the internet. However, the news that Mrs. Ding brought the child back to her parents' house was exposed by other media not long after. Madame Ding's action also caused the righteous passers-by, who were originally wavering and did not know which side to stand on, to instantly switch sides. If you're not having an affair, why would you enter a room with a young and beautiful girl in the middle of the night? If you didn't cheat, why would your wife take the child back to her parents' house in a fit of anger? As it turned out, the more intense the love affair, the more people liked it. The fans, who had been clamoring that Brother Ding doted on his wife so much, would never take a fancy to such a peerless white lotus, were a little confused. They had been arguing on the internet for so long, telling people everywhere about how deeply Ding Juesi loved his wife. In the end, he turned around and angered his wife and son so much that she went back to her parents' home. They couldn't coax her back. This, just as Mrs. Ding had said before, although Ding Juesi had entered the entertainment industry early, he only became famous after he married her. On the one hand, Mrs. Ding's family had given him a lot of resources. On the other hand, he had attracted a lot of fans because of his team's hard work and his image as an old cadre. Even if there were some fans of his work, most of them were fans of his work and his wife. Now that his persona had collapsed, those CP fans who only loved his persona felt their hearts turn cold, and they lost a lot of fans. Chapter 956. Ding Juesi's team was extremely anxious when they saw this, especially his manager. When he found out that Mrs. Ding had brought the child back to her parents' house and was determined to divorce Ding Juesi, he was so angry that he almost went into shock on the spot. Is there something wrong with your head? I've reminded you before to pay attention to your image. You're a public figure and a married man. No matter how much you like her, you shouldn't get too close to that woman. You refuse to listen and even let someone take photos of the two of you entering the room together. Now, everyone thinks that you're having an affair. Even your wife was finally angered back to her parents' house and wants to divorce you. Are you satisfied? The manager circled around Ding Juesi. Didn't you say that the two of you have a good relationship and that she listens to everything you say? Then why are you suddenly getting a divorce? She wants to bring the child back to her parents' house, but you don't know how to coax her. You let her leave just like that and even got photographed. Do you think the current situation isn't chaotic enough? Ding Juesi was scolded by his manager. His face was terrifyingly gloomy, but he did not refute. Ding Juesi's manager scolded for a while and his anger subsided a little. No, this matter can only be resolved with your wife's cooperation. Go and find your wife now. I don't care if you coax her, beg her, or kneel down. You must get her to speak up for you. When the time comes, you can say that because of the incident on the internet, many people are squatting near your house. You're worried that they will hurt your wife and child, so you ask them to temporarily go back to their parents' house to avoid them. There won't be any problems between husband and wife. This way, not only can you solve the current problem, but you can also maintain your image of doting on your wife. Ding Ju-see's manager felt that he had thought of a good idea. He looked at Ding Ju-see expectantly, hoping that he would do as he said. However, Ding Ju-see revealed an awkward expression and did not agree immediately. When the manager saw him like this, his heart could not help but skip a beat. He had an ominous premonition. Is there something important that you haven't told me? Tell me honestly, did your wife really want to divorce you because of this incident? Ding Ju-see opened his mouth and hesitated. As if seeing Ding Ju-see's hesitation, the manager paced back and forth angrily. It's already time. What else can't you say? Do you really want to kill yourself before you tell me the truth? Ding Ju-see had no choice but to briefly explain what he had done all these years. By the way, he could also tell him that his wife already knew about these things, and she probably had evidence on hand. If he chose not to divorce her, she might publicize the evidence in a fit of anger and ruin his reputation. Ding Ju-see's manager almost fainted when he heard that. Ding Ju-see, hello. Why are you only telling me such an important thing now? He originally thought that Madame Ding had returned to her parents' house in a fit of anger because Ding Ju-see had been photographed. If that was the case, it wouldn't be a big problem. After all, Ding Ju-see had repeatedly confirmed to him that he did have feelings for Wen Jingping, but he didn't really have sex with her. As long as it wasn't really an affair, he had a way to turn the situation around. But now, before this matter was resolved, a certain someone had exposed a lot of old news for him. It was obvious that Mrs. Ding's plan would not work. The agent gritted his teeth and said, "Now, we can only put all the blame on that woman." Ding Ju-see was stunned. What do you mean? Chapter 957. It was a literal meaning. Now, you're not only facing accusations of cheating. If you don't handle this matter well, it's very likely that you, a senior, will take advantage of a female artist in the industry. If that woman stands up and cries at this time and says that she was forced, your entertainment career will be ruined. Instead of waiting until then, it's better to strike first and gain the upper hand. The manager's so-called strike first and gain the upper hand was actually very simple. It was nothing more than pushing the blame to the woman and hinting that the other party had premeditated seduction. After that, he would logically say that the two of them were in the same room and that the woman had deliberately released false information to hype herself up. After torturing the fans, he would come out to clarify and solidify the fans. He would take the black-red route and then whitewash himself to earn more traffic. At that time, Ding Ju-see, who was being used as a tool, would not only be able to whitewash himself, but also gain a wave of sympathy and successfully resolve the crisis. However, what the manager didn't expect was that Ding Ju-see, who had been a little numb when he mentioned his wife not long ago, immediately jumped up when he mentioned Wen Jingping as if his Achilles heel had been poked. No. The manager choked and asked with a dark face, why not? Anyway, it's just not possible. The manager choked and looked at Ding Ju-see suspiciously. He sneered and said, "Don't tell me you've fallen in love with this woman? Even if you have, what are you going to do? Divorce your wife and be with her?" Ding Ju-see's face twisted for a moment. He wasn't stupid. Of course, he knew that if he separated from his wife and was with Wen Jingping at this time, he would ruin his future. However, being rational was one thing, and being emotional was something else entirely. Rationality told him that he couldn't do this, but there was a voice in his heart that encouraged him to pursue Wen Jingping. He had to love her and dote on her, but he couldn't hurt her. Just like after his wife brought the child back to her mother's house, Ding Ju-see also regretted his impulse and said something like divorce so easily. But more than that, he heaved a sigh of relief. He felt that this was good. This way, he could regain his freedom and pursue Wen Jingping openly. When this thought appeared, Ding Ju-see himself was shocked, but he couldn't resist the inexplicable temptation. He wanted to slide into the abyss uncontrollably. Ding Ju-see's manager saw that he didn't speak for a long time, and his patience was gradually running out. He directly gave an ultimatum. She can only choose one of you as a star. You choose. The manager thought that if he threatened Ding Juesi with his future, he would definitely choose his career without hesitation. Unexpectedly, Ding Juesi remained silent. In the eyes of the manager, this silence meant that Ding Juesi was willing to give up the reputation and status that he had worked so hard for all these years for a woman. The manager's face darkened completely. He pointed at Ding Juesi and said through gritted teeth, "Good, good, good. Ding Juesi, you're really good. Do you really think that the company and I can't do without you? Fine, since you love her so much and want to protect her so much, then you can die with her. I don't care about this anymore. Don't come looking for me even if you regret it in the future. From today onwards, I'm no longer your manager." After saying that, the manager turned around and left. Ding Juesi stood where he was with a livid face. He looked at the manager's back view and felt that something important was leaving him one after another. He had thought of struggling, but as soon as this thought appeared, it was scattered by something invisible. He calmed down and wanted to search again, but the initial struggle had already disappeared. Chapter 958. Ding Juesi's lack of cooperation not only angered his manager, but also the higher-ups in High-E Entertainment who were in charge of public relations. Instead of finding a way to solve such a big problem together, he was dragging them down. He deserved it. The rumors about Ding Juesi and Wen Jingping on the internet were getting more and more intense. In the end, it reached Do Tianyi again. This matter hasn't been resolved yet? Do Tianyi looked at the documents on the table with a dark expression. He usually didn't care about such trivial matters, but he was the one who brought Wen Jingping into the company. And because of her, he registered with Su Yiyan before meeting Su Yiyan. Do Tianyi's attitude towards this woman was really unpredictable. Both of them are artists in our company. It won't look good for our company if we give up either one of them. Li Yu subconsciously glanced at Do Tianyi. Seeing that he didn't have any special reaction, she continued probing, "Wen Jingping has only been in the company for a short time. If we really want to give up on her, she should be the priority. However, the drama she starred in is about to be released soon. Moreover, Ding Juesi doesn't agree." Do Tianyi's eyes turned cold. He instantly grasped the main point. Ding Juesi doesn't agree? Why not? Li Yu's expression changed slightly. She coughed lightly and said, "It's Ding Juesi himself who doesn't agree. He's interested in Wen Jingping?" Do Tianyi narrowed his eyes and sneered. For Wen Jingping, he doesn't hesitate to put his career on the line. This love is really touching. If I didn't know that he has a wife and a child, would really think that he's an infatuated person. The corners of Li Yu's mouth twitched. She secretly thought that her boss's sarcasm was really good. What infatuated? He doesn't know how to love his wife and child. He only cares about his mistress. To put it bluntly, the so-called deep love was nothing more than lust. Because of this, Ding Juesi fell out with his manager. His manager has already applied to not take him in. Since it's a lord who loves beauties and not his kingdom, then I'll grant him his wish. Let the company release a statement to refute the rumors about their relationship. It doesn't matter if the people outside believe it or not, the company's reputation has to be taken care of. As for whether Ding Juesi could make a comeback in the future, they didn't really care. Without Ding Juesi, there were plenty of newcomers in the company to replace him. No one was irreplaceable. When Li Yu heard Do Tianyi's words, she heaved a sigh of relief. Ding Juesi's father-in-law was a small shareholder of High-E Entertainment. Although he didn't have many shares, it was still easy for him to control a small artist. Li Yu had also heard about the dirty things that Ding Juesi had done. Madame Ding had brought the child back to her parents' house at the cusp of the storm. It was obvious that she had made up her mind to divorce someone. Anyone would be angry after being cuckolded for so many years. If her boss wanted to protect Ding Ju, it would be troublesome in the future. If he gave up now, it would save him a lot of trouble. However, Miss Wen's new drama is about to start airing soon. If there's such a scandal on the eve of the broadcast, the ratings will probably be affected. As soon as Li Yu finished speaking, Do Tianyi glanced at her and chuckled. How's the filming of their drama? Have you watched it? No, but it should be okay. Should be? I'll go home tonight and try it out. No need. When the ratings are out, estimate the losses and make her pay. What? Li Yu's expression changed slightly. Make her pay. Make her pay as much as the drama loses. Chapter 959. I'm afraid she doesn't have that much money. If she doesn't have money, then she'll find a way to earn it. Li Yu's heart couldn't help but tremble. Back then, Do Tianyi realized that Wen Jingping was special and almost gave in to her every request. Wen Jingping said that she wanted to act and be the female lead. Do Tianyi specially invested in a drama for her and let her, an inexperienced newcomer, enjoy the thrill of privilege. Unfortunately, this special treatment didn't last long. Treasures were called treasures because they were rare and precious. However, when there was a better substitute, could the previous treasures still be considered treasures? The answer was obvious. Li Yu just didn't expect Do Tianyi to be so ruthless. The script of a big production had a certain degree of risk. Although Li Yu hadn't watched the finished film, before the filming of the drama was completed, he had heard a few old actors complain to the director about how Wen Jingping was slowing down the progress of the production. They were all elites, so how could Li Yu not tell that they were tactfully complaining to him that Wen Jingping's acting was not good enough and that she could not control the scene? A drama where the female lead couldn't control the scene. It was obvious what would happen when it was aired. When Wen Jingping had made this request to Do Tianyi, she had imagined that she would be like the female lead in the drama and become famous overnight. She had never thought that the drama would eventually turn around and cause her to be caught in a trap and bear a huge debt. Thinking of this, Li Yu subconsciously glanced at Do Tianyi. Investing in Wen Jingping's drama was considered a big investment for Hai Yi, but to Do Tianyi, it was just a drop in the ocean. No matter what, he had once wanted to treat her differently. Now, he could easily push her into the abyss without any psychological burden. His boss really wanted people to live if he loved them, and wanted them to die if he hated them. Because Wen Jingping and Ding Juesi had delivered themselves to her door, Su Yiyan was in a very good mood for the next few days. Her work efficiency had significantly improved. She got off work on time every day and went home to accompany her child. That day, when Su Yiyan returned home, Hua Qinhuan had not yet returned. As soon as she entered the house, she saw the nanny feeding the little guy. As soon as the soft little dumpling saw his mother, he immediately pulled the pacifier out of his mouth and waved his little hands as he cried out. Su Yiyan's heart was instantly pierced. She dropped the things in her hands and rushed over impatiently. She took the little boy from the nanny's arms and rubbed his chubby little round face. Baby, did you miss your mother today? Mama misses you so much. Perhaps the little fellow was tickled by the rubbing. He giggled and raised his little hand to pat his mother's face. The smile on Su Yiyan's face immediately deepened. She held the little guy's milk bottle and said, "You go do something else first. I'll feed him." The nanny nodded and turned to go outside to pack the clothes and diapers that the baby had worn today. The little guy was quite well behaved in Su Yiyan's arms. At first, he stared at Su Yiyan with his big round eyes. Later, perhaps because he was satisfied with the milk and could feel his mother by his side, he began to feel sleepy. However, he stubbornly opened his eyes and looked at Su Yiyan. Su Yiyan found it funny. She took the milk bottle and placed the little guy in the cradle. She turned around and walked to the bookshelf behind her. She wanted to find a few children's books to tell the little guy bedtime stories. The booklet was stuffed in the corner of the cabinet by the family members. Su Yiyan took some effort to pull it out. When she pulled out a book beside it. With a thud, the book fell to the ground. The pages of the book opened and a photo slid out. Chapter 960. Su Yiyen raised her eyebrows and bent down to pick up the photo. When she turned it around, her eyes widened in surprise. In the photo was a 14 or 15-year-old girl wearing a school uniform. She was carrying a school bag and her head was slightly tilted. She seemed to have seen something and was smiling very happily. The reason why Su Yiyen was surprised was not because of how beautiful the girl in the photo was or how happy she was smiling, but because the girl in the photo was her in junior high school. Su Yiyen knew that Hua Chenhuan had liked her for a long time in her previous life. After marrying into the family Hua, she often took advantage of Hua Chenhuan's absence to rummage through the house to see if there was anything related to her hidden in the house. Unfortunately, Hua Chenhuan had a talent for hiding things. Su Yiyen couldn't find anything after searching for so long. Su Yiyen thought that he had already dealt with these things before she entered the family Hua. She didn't expect, ah woo. Ah woo. The little guy was unwilling to be left out and called out, drawing Su Yiyen's attention back. Su Yiyen took a few children's books and the book that fell out to the side of the cradle and smiled. Did you wait long? Mom will tell you a story now. When Hua Chenhuan returned home, Su Yiyen had already coaxed the little guy to sleep. You're back. Hua Chenhuan looked at his wife in the living room with a bright smile as she waited for him to return. The gloominess and coldness on his face faded in an instant and was replaced by a gentle smile. Yes. Hua Chenhuan held Su Yiyen's hand and looked around. Where's the baby? He just drank milk and fell asleep. Su Yiyen suddenly got up. I have something to tell you. Let's go upstairs. Hua Chenhuan looked puzzled, but still obediently accompanied her upstairs. Tell me the truth. What's with this photo? Hua Chenhuan was a little surprised when she saw the photo. She took it and looked at it, then asked with a smile, where did you find this? You forgot where you put it? There are too many things, and the real person is already in front of me. Compared to the rigid photos, I prefer the moving and smiling version of you. Su Yiyen was slightly startled. She looked into Hua Chenhuan's deep and affectionate eyes. Her face couldn't help but feel a little hot, but she said, Humph, don't think that you can change the topic by saying these sweet words. If you confess, you'll be lenient, if you resist, you'll be strict. Tell me, what's with this picture? Apart from this one, do you have? Hua Chenhuan looks at his little wife's gradually blushing face and deliberately teases her, is it what? Su Yiyen glared at him angrily. Do you have other photos or something else? Come with me. Su Yiyen blinked and followed Hua Chenhuan to the third floor. The third floor of the family Hua seemed to be Hua Chenhuan's parents' room. After Hua Chenhuan's parents passed away, the third floor was sealed off. Except for a period of time when Uncle Zhang personally went upstairs to clean, no one else went upstairs. Su Yiyen followed Hua Chenhuan to the third floor. After walking for a while, they stopped in front of a small old room. This room was located at the end of the corridor on the third floor, right above Hua Chenhuan's toy room. Hua Chenhuan added 3 locks to this small room. After manually entering the password and verifying fingerprints and facial recognition, the door opened with a click. Such a complicated decryption process was enough to show that the owner of the room valued this room. Su Yiyen was also very curious about this room. What exactly was in there? Chapter 961. Let's go in. Hua Chenhuan's words jolted Su Yiyen out of her daze. She nodded and pushed the door open eagerly. Even though Su Yiyen was mentally prepared, she was still shocked by the pile of things in the room. Other than the photos, Su Yiyen even saw a few things that she had discarded after graduation. Su Yiyen was embarrassed and almost couldn't help but ask Hua Chenhuan, are you a pervert? You even want the things that I threw away. Fortunately, Hua Chenhuan still had some integrity. The things that she collected were relatively ordinary and nothing too personal. Otherwise, Su Yiyen would have dug a hole and buried herself in it. Su Yiyen walked around the room as if she was searching for treasures. She could still recognize some of the things that were relatively recent, but there were also some that she couldn't remember. However, with the lesson of the past, Su Yiyen felt that even if the things in here didn't belong to her, they were definitely related to her. Needless to say, Hua Chenhuan even had her graduation photos from junior high school, and even university. The degree of completeness was not inferior to her, the owner of the photos. It was simply amazing. Su Yiyen went from being surprised to being embarrassed to being numb. Finally, she sighed subtly. Unbeknownst to her, there was someone who had been paying attention to her and had never taken his eyes off her. If it were someone else, Su Yiyen would only feel her hair stand on end. However, when it came to Hua Chenhuan, she only felt heartache and sadness when she thought about all the things that they had gone through in their previous lives. That was why people said that people had double standards. Those who were favored were always fearless. Su Yiyen walked around and suddenly seemed to have discovered something. She walked to the table in the middle of the room and stood still. She frowned and said, "Why does this specimen look so strange? And this thing was also related to her? Why didn't she have any impression of it?" Hua Chenhuan saw that Su Yiyen had noticed the specimen and her eyes flashed. He walked to Shu Yiyen's side and smiled faintly. "Have you forgotten? This is a gift from you. I gave it to you." Su Yiyen blinked with a blank face. "When did I give you this?" "In front of the cake shop in the south of the city. Did you give a bunch of dried flowers to a strange little brother?" Su Yiyen was stunned, and the expression on her face changed from confusion to shock. "You're that little brother? At that time, it was you who saved me." When Su Yiyen was almost 12 years old, she went out to play with her classmates. However, she was targeted by a group of outlaws who wanted to kidnap her and ask her family for a ransom. Although Su Yiyen was young at that time, she was not stupid. She realized that something was wrong and immediately sent a message for help to her family. Then, she and her friends split up and ran toward a crowded area. But at the time, she was only an 11 or 12-year-old child. There was no way she could outrun an adult man who had traveled extensively. Just as those people were about to catch up with her, a car stopped in front of Su Yiyen. A handsome little brother rolled down the car window and asked her in a low voice if she needed help. Su Yiyen could not explain why she trusted him so easily when she was surrounded by danger. Perhaps it was because the car did not look like an ordinary car, or perhaps it was because the smile on the young man's face was too warm and kind. She got into the car in a daze. Fortunately, the little brother did not betray her trust. He comforted her gently along the way. After confirming her condition, he sent her to a safe place and waited for her family to pick her up. "That person was actually you." Su Yiyen turned to look at Hua Chenhuan in surprise. It was as if she wanted to find some traces of the past on his face. Chapter 962. At that time, Su Yiyen was more than 11 years old, and Hua Chenhuan was only 15 or 16 years old. They must have looked different when they were young. In addition, Hua Chenhuan's family had not suffered any major changes at that time. He was a happy, gentle young man. The feeling he gave off was completely different from when they met again after they grew up. There was also, "I was young at that time, and I was frightened. After I went back, I fell ill. I remember you, but I don't remember what you looked like, so I didn't recognize you." Children's memories were blurred, and after so many years, the two of them had grown up. It was not easy to change the old impression, so Su Yiyen had never thought about it. "I know. I don't blame you." Su Yiyen pursed her lips and asked tentatively, "Did you start to like me then? Love at first sight?" "That's not it. I just thought you were very cute." How could she not be cute? At that time, Su Yiyen's face still had baby fat, and she was still young. She looked small and cute. Su Yiyen breathed a sigh of relief and was a little disappointed. "Really? Really?" Hua Chenhuan knew what Su Yiyen was thinking. She scratched her nose and said helplessly, "I'm not crazy enough to have bad thoughts about a child." Su Yiyen blushed and did not dare to continue asking. She pulled the topic back to the specimen in front of her. I remember that I gave you a small bouquet of dried flowers. The flowers were blue. It was the finished product of my first home handicraft project. Yes, I know. You told me when you gave it to me. Then why is this flower red? And it was made into a specimen. That's my blood. Su Yiyen's eyes narrowed. She froze for a while before she said with difficulty, Your blood? You said that the blood on it is your blood? Yes. How did you get it? The blood looks so much and so deep. Wait, Su Yiyen's gaze suddenly fell on Hua Qinhuan's legs. Could it be? Hua Qinhuan saw the change in her expression. He took the initiative to hold her slightly cold hand and said in a hoarse voice, On the way back that day, I had a car accident. That was the darkest day of Hua Qinhuan's life. She and her parents had both died. If Zheng Qianyang hadn't rushed back in time to take control of the situation, he would have died long ago. Even if he survived, his legs would have been amputated long ago. It was impossible for him to survive until the day Su Yiyen treated him. Su Yiyen subconsciously tightened her grip on Hua Qinhuan's hand. Did you get into an accident because you were sending me there? No. Before Su Yiyen could finish, Hua Qinhuan interrupted her. Even if I didn't send you off, I would have gotten into a car accident that day. That car accident was not an accident. Not an accident? Su Yiyen's face turned pale. She subconsciously grabbed Hua Qinhuan with her other hand. You mean that the car accident that caused your legs was not an accident, but a man-made one? Who was it? Who wanted to hurt you? Hua Qinhuan didn't answer. Su Yiyen bit her lip and tried to calm herself down. Was it the people who hurt your parents? Or Hua Qihan? Who was it? Tell me. After Su Yiyen's questioning, the room fell into a dead silence again. Just when Su Yiyen thought that Hua Qinhuan might not have found out or didn't intend to tell her, she suddenly heard Hua Qinhuan reply coldly, It was them. Chapter 963. Them? Su Yiyen's eyes were red as she looked at Hua Qinhuan. Hua Qinhuan looked at her pleading eyes, but in the end, she couldn't harden her heart to hide the truth from the person in front of her. It's Hua Qihan and those people. Hua Qihan and those people? Su Yiyen didn't expect to get such an answer. She was stunned for a while before she asked tentatively, Did Hua Qihan and those people want to harm you, or did they harm you together? This question seemed to be the same, but there was a big difference when it came to the truth. Different routes to the same destination, or did they work together to harm her? If it was the former, it would be fine, but if it was the latter, thinking of the real cause of Hua Qinhuan's parents' death, Su Yiyen couldn't help but feel a chill down her spine. They did it together, didn't they? Hua Qihan has been in touch with them for a long time, and your parents. It's also their fault. Su Yiyen finally couldn't help crying. She felt sorry for Hua Qinhuan's hardships, but she was even angrier at someone's madness. For money and power, he could even harm his own family. How could he do that? Those are your parents, and also his parents. How could he be so cruel to kill them? He killed his parents and murdered his own brother. Isn't he afraid of retribution? No. What? My parents are not his, and I'm not his brother. Su Yiyen suddenly widened her eyes and looked at Hua Qinhuan in disbelief. You mean Hua Qihan is not, he's just my parents' adopted son. Adopted son? How could that be? Why have I never heard of this? Not many people know about this. My parents fell in love freely, and they were abroad for a long time. Later, because of some things, they came back to develop and founded the Hua Corporation. Hua Qinhuan paused and sighed. My mother liked children very much. They were married for 2 or 3 years and didn't use contraception, but she couldn't get pregnant. Only then did my parents realize that something was wrong and did a detailed examination. The conclusion was that my grandmother had an accident when she was pregnant with my mother, causing my mother to be born prematurely and congenitally deficient. Although she recovered later, it may be a little difficult for her to bear an heir. So, they adopted a child? Yes. Hua Chenhuan's voice was a little dull. Hua Qihan was already 5 or 6 years old when he was adopted by my parents. My parents were worried that his identity was sensitive and that what outsiders said would affect the child's mood and future growth, so they strictly ordered the family not to spread this matter. To outsiders, they only said that Hua Qihan was their biological child and that they had raised him abroad before he grew up. At that time, the Hua Corporation had just started and hadn't really made a name for itself yet. The outside world also didn't pay much attention to their family, so no one suspected anything. Hua Qihan himself and Hua Hua were also uncles, and they were relatives. After Hua Chenhuan's parents passed away, the descendants of Hua Chenhuan's uncles, such as Zui Yanbai and Gu Xiaoyang, also gradually learned about this matter. Therefore, they were disgusted and angry with Hua Qihan's family. Firstly, it was because they grew up with Hua Chenhuan and had more feelings for him than for Hua Qihan's family. Secondly, they also felt that Hua Qihan did not have the family whose blood flowing in his veins, and he was not as capable as Hua Chenhuan. However, with the old master's will, he effortlessly obtained the Hua Corporation. No matter how they looked at it, it felt like a turtledove had taken over the magpie's nest and robbed Hua Chenhuan of his belongings. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.